just simple training and awareness. Manpower and Microsoft and the UN ODC, I believe it was UN ODC, all got together and they funded and created a training program that's available to businesses for free to utilize in their own companies. So much like many of us who are part of large companies take anti-bribery or sexual harassment, et cetera, that this is training at the very simplest thing a company can do is educate their employees. I can share with you that as a result of us taking through a portion of our employees through the training and telling them about the hotline, we actually have proof that we saved one child at an airport that somebody recognized the signs and called the Polaris hotline. And that child was someone who had just arrived in New York and was to meet for some modeling job or something like that. And this employee just recognized this was an issue and called and got law enforcement available. So there are very simple things that can make a difference for companies aside from the usual policies, et cetera. But I can tell you, you can ask any employee, what does the HR policy say on this, or et cetera. Without being trained, nobody's looking at those policies.
You're all, or many of you are employees of a company or your own company or a not-for-profit. One thing that I've found about Americans over my whole career, and I've only worked for American companies, is that you darn well say what you think quite a lot. And what we've seen in the corporate world over the last 10 years is the rise in many spheres of business and commerce of people saying, you're doing that in this company and it's not right. And that's to do with bribery, incorrect business practices. But the notion that individual whistleblowers can do something is exceptionally powerful here inside of companies. Let me just give you the example. Did you know, for instance, that worldwide the use of prostitutes is 97% by men? What a surprise. But here's what you didn't know. 60% of that is by men during the working time of the week. Now, employers can do something about that. That is wrong. That's an abuse of the company, the time, and it's an abuse of the people that are being used as commodities. So I would say to you, one program that is very healthy, very good for a corporation, is to say, if you see somebody doing something a bit questionable, raise it with a supervisor, raise it with somebody inside of the company, and ask the company to take some appropriate action. Many companies that we work with now have counseling programs inside of the companies when men have been found to be using prostitutes. And the other thing that I find bizarre is, why is it still legal in parts of the USA? Are you mad? Why don't you just pass a law and ban this stuff and then enforce it? But I think whistleblowing is very good. And then, as you say, there are lots of, just go on a website, say human trafficking, and there are quite a lot of resources in North America that can help you find some kind of solution.
In research that we conducted in collaboration with the International Organization for Adolescence and trainings across Illinois as well as other states in the country, child welfare professionals who are coming into contact with abused, neglected children were asked the question, do you think you've ever worked with a victim of human trafficking, labor at sex? Before training, they were asked that question. They were asked the same question after training that we provided. After training, the responses increased positively over 200%. So that suggests that here is a system that is tasked with responding to abused, neglected children that has already seen these cases as new cases that are coming in, as well as existing wards of the state, and those are being provided services as high risk. And so one of the projects that we have engaged with in collaboration with IOFA is called Child Right Building, Child Welfare Response to Child Trafficking. And so here's a system that is working with these youth. How do we build capacity? How do we develop training? How do we develop operating procedures to better respond to these cases? So one of the new things that happened in Illinois that was mentioned earlier was in the passage of the Illinois Safe Children's Act, the Department of Children and Family Services was identified as kind of a mandated response, that these children are now abuse and neglect cases. They're not offenders. They're not being placed in the juvenile justice system. They should be treated as victims. And there's a new allegation or a maltreatment, and for lay people's terms, it's kind of almost like a new crime, similar to abuse and neglect of human trafficking. So these cases can then be identified when calls come into the hotline. and tracked throughout the system, and then we're developing other policies and procedures around that to help implement that and improve the child welfare response to child trafficking. And this is a unique program in Illinois that we think has a lot of potential in other states in the country and also internationally.
I just want to mention the power of actually having a number that you can call if you see something is amazing. One thing that we're doing in a group of large corporations is we have scheduled every major sporting event on a global basis for the last 6 years. And for every major sporting event, it could be the Euro Championships of soccer, the World Cup in South Africa, the Olympics in London, every time a consortium of us, and advised and partnered with an organization like Polaris, have put in place a call center with lots of cards throughout the cities that these events are in to say to women, if you have been trafficked, call this number. The power of that, when the European Football Championships were in Austria and Switzerland, we had 11,000 calls. 11,000. When the championships were in Germany, the German government authorized the import of prostitutes from Eastern Europe into brothels to service the fans. We stopped them doing that. Each time we put a call center in place, and we've saved thousands of women and children, disgustingly enough. So I think the power of knowing where to go, to find an expert or to find somebody that knows what's going on, I think it's immensely powerful.
I just want to add, there's efforts underway to create one global number. And I don't know how far off we are. Technically, it's a bit difficult. But that's also something that where corporations become involved from a pro bono perspective by giving their talents and their tools and their vast wisdom that, as activists and service providers, we don't have. But we really need to work together with the absolute very best in the telecoms industry and in everything that's technical to get that one telephone number to work, because things will become much easier when we do have that one number.